Hi, Amy.
Happy.
We watched 90 Day Fiancé UK Season 4, Episode 7. Are we just going to dive in, or are you going to preamble?
First of all, I would like to apologize to the listeners for the late episode. I had a death in the family and had a funeral. So that's why we're doing it late, and I apologize. This is not something that I could have compromised on. And
No.
then this episode was so irritating. Is it my mood? I don't know.
I think there were some very interesting moments that created a lot of tension, which is my politically correct way of saying, yes, I agree. There were a lot of aggravating times when I wanted to punch my screen and say something rude. But this is the nature of the show. Sometimes we get episodes where we're smiling the whole way through, and sometimes we're pulling our hair out. In any case,
I think we were blessed for the last couple episodes
yes.
between UK and Match Me, because they were so, I want to use the word fruitful, but I think that that's so almost pretentious.
Gilead. I'm thinking Gilead when you say fruitful. Blessed be the fruit.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that in relation to what you were saying before about this episode coming out late, we're going to be doing our episode of Match Me Abroad tomorrow because things are getting quite late this evening. So apologies for the lateness of that episode as well.
And yes, for the same reason. So I apologize for that.
We're doing our best.
Yep.
Before we get started, 1, 2, 1, rate, review, and follow us wherever you listen to the podcast. 2, watch our podcast on YouTube at 90 Day Fiancé, honestly. And now we may begin.
Okay, let's do this. First of all, this first segment confirms that they were sleeping in the same bed.
Yes. Yes. Which goes contrary to Islam, does it not? Because they're not married. Yes. So
yes, because she
again,
also says that he's a super strict Muslim. He wouldn't appreciate the things that she was doing later on in the episode, blah, blah, blah.
yeah.
Love the fact that they're super strict.
Selectively.
Thank you. Selectively strict. You're sleeping in the same bed. Obviously, we know that they have had premarital sex. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, I'm super glad that she left because I can only imagine how irritating the bugs were. Awful.
Yeah, that whole thing seemed awful, and I don't think I could have taken it any better than she did. But the thing that really surprised me was that when she got up to leave to say, okay, I can't handle this, I'm going to go check into a hotel, he just kept sleeping. I'm not going to walk you across this village in the middle of the night in the pitch dark with your suitcase dragging behind you in a place that you don't know to a hotel that may or may not be somewhere on this road. He just like, yeah, I'm gonna
may not have space.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's dragging her suitcase behind her, and yet later on in the episode he tries dragging it and then he just ends up carrying it.
Yeah.
So how far was this? How long did it take? I don't believe that he was sleeping. You can kind of see him smirking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and did she in fact have the hotel booked from the start, and then this was her plan all along to see how things would go, but she suspected that she wouldn't be able to survive at his house, so this was her plan.
And how long has she been there for?
A day. Just a day.
I feel like it's been weeks.
No, it's just she arrived at the village that day, remember? And they spent the time with the family. And then the evening comes and then it's Bug City. She bails. And then the next day when she comes back, I found this kind of rich that he is not speaking to her at first and acting as if she was being rude by going to the hotel. I mean, come on. She gave you so much money and she's providing for your family and she just wants to be comfortable. She's used to very different lifestyle and you're going to hold it against her.
And his family gives her such a warm welcome.
Yeah.
And he's like a petulant child just sitting there and be like, yeah, you came back. Okay, great. But she came back to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Because he had to go to work.
All she wanted was to be comfortable and to actually sleep. So who can blame her for wanting to find a place where she can do that in comfort, in quiet, without the bugs?
Yeah, but his family welcomed her back. Mm-hmm. They rushed to her because she is the cash cow for the family.
Yes, she is.
One of presumably many. Though she was saying she feels bad for letting him down, which I think is rich because, you know, she found so many holes in his stories before she even got there. Mm-hmm. And yet she feels bad. Does he feel bad? Absolutely not, because he's a conniving,
Scammer.
self-centered ass.
Ooh,
And then
ouch.
he comes out and he's like, "Oh, yes, I forgive you for leaving."
She apologized enough times.
Mhm, and thinking back to when she was first talking about going there, how he was building her a room, and then us seeing the lack of progression without a roof, without I mean, even a mosquito net. I don't know what the
Yeah.
provisions are like out there. I don't know how easy it would be to get and or if it would be seen bougie or what it would look like culturally if he were to try to get her a mosquito net. I just, I had such high hopes for her in the beginning. And the more that we learn about her, the more I am disappointed in her. And this episode continues to add on to my disappointment. Almost like her groveling for, well, not almost, her groveling for his forgiveness because she left because she was uncomfortable. She was getting eaten alive. And as someone who mosquitoes prefer, I can completely understand that. No matter what the insect is, it seems as though I'm always the target. And he was just sitting there or laying there pretending to be asleep. He was fine. He doesn't care about her comfort. He doesn't care about her. Like, he's so self-centered, and I need this man off my screen.
The self-centeredness and the kind of fake anger that he displayed the morning after, I think is very much evident when you contrast it with how the rest of the family welcomes Zena back to the
Agree.
house, compound, whatever it is. That really gives you a clear indication of how things should be or are in reality, and that the way that he's acting is out of step with reality, out of step with what his culture is like. The question is that really who he is, or is he just acting it up for the camera? Don't know.
Good
That's where the
point.
question lies. Yeah.
Good point.
But when she goes back to the town where he works and then she spends the day alone because he's working, she's not totally alone. She spends part of the day with her friend at the beach discussing the culture and the way that she's noticed certain
Consistencies?
inconsistencies. Thank you. Within how his family acts, i.e., the little boy, the nephew, calling him dad, the possibility that the sister isn't the sister, but the wife, the cherry picking of the religious observations that he makes, where he comes down on her hard for drinking, and yet, well, they're sleeping together. That's obvious. Plus, he has all of these friends on Facebook who are scantily clad. You have a cat so much in front of your face that I can barely see you.
Mhm.
He is like the star tonight
Well, I've been
in the
away.
scotch.
So, I found it interesting that she said she wanted someone else's opinion when her entire family has said, "Don't do it.
Yep.
He's scamming you." But she wants this outside perspective. What's wrong with the perspective that she got from her family? And
Nothing, but
her
she doesn't wanna hear it.
Yeah, and her new friend Doris says, from what I understand, and she did say she's been there 5 or 6 times, so obviously quite familiar with the culture from the resort standpoint. But her saying, calling someone auntie or uncle would be a lot more appropriate. So them calling him dad, papa, whatever it was very questionable. And then again, Zena says he's a strict Muslim, and yet we've seen the sex before marriage, and she's drinking and whatever. And then her saying that she's now 50-50 with him, I thought was also very disappointing because I thought she was 50-50 before she left. And now
Yeah.
he's added on to her very valid questions as to his truthfulness and his honorability. I'm so irritated with her right now. I'm also irritated with myself that, I was so excited to watch her, and she was so entertaining, and now to see her doing her groveling, and like there's so much evidence against everything that he's told you. At what point do you see him for who he is? And then when she's dancing and he comes out and he basically pulls her away and he said, "No more drinking, no dancing, put your boobs back in your dress," or whatever he said.
Mhm.
I didn't see it. Maybe they cut that. I don't know. But she was having a great time because she could drink freely. She could do whatever she wanted. Also, I think that might actually be a problem for her, but that's neither here nor there.
No. Well, for me, it's desperation. Xena smacks of desperation. She
Yeah.
is so lonely and so sad. And we saw this right from the beginning in her very first episode when she told us that she'd had a number of plastic surgeries. She's been divorced. She had a husband who cheated on her. She's obviously suffered a lot of tragedy in her life, and yet she doesn't lean on her family. So, why is it that why doesn't she have that connection to her family? Why can't she believe them when they say, "No, don't do this. This is silly." So Xena can't talk to her family. She can't rely on her family for some reason.
But
She
she
has
can talk to her family, she just doesn't listen to anything that comes out of their mouths.
yes.
And her best friend who
Nor yeah, her friends as well.
why doesn't anyone else's opinion matter?
I
Why
don't
does she
know.
have to get the opinion from a woman that she met at the resort? I
And
wonder
who
if
she's
she's trying to find someone who will side with him so that it will give her a reason to give him more leeway.
I think she's looking for confirmation bias. She wants
Thank
somebody
you.
to
Yes.
say, yes, everything is okay. It's totally normal for these little Gambian kids to be calling him dad when it's really their uncle. It's totally normal for him to have scantily clad women as friends on Facebook and not tell you about it. She's looking for somebody who's going to back her because she doesn't want to hear the bad news. She obviously hasn't listened to her friends or her family. She's not going to listen to this random woman on the beach. And she says, I'm going to talk to Ibrahim finally about my suspicions. And I just thought to myself, what is the point?
What is the point?
She hasn't listened to anybody so far. She hasn't trusted her own instincts so far. In addition to which, she really needs a third party here because she doesn't speak the language and she can't get she can't get anybody else's opinion without it being translated through Ibrahim so he can say whatever he wants. If she asks, say, his sister, are you really his wife? He could
Mhm.
just say, no, or yes, or whatever. He can make it up. She needs somebody else. She needs almost like a private investigator.
I mean, not just that, why don't you just ask one of his colleagues?
Again,
I mean,
translation. She needs somebody to speak English.
well, no, because people that work on the resort very likely
Yeah. Yeah.
are multilingual, as
But
he is.
they could be scammers too. They could be in on his scam. They could know exactly what Ibrahim is all about. They could be doing the same thing
100%.
with other women. It's like she needs somebody else who is not connected to him, but who can give her an objective perspective and say, look, this is what's really going on, or this is what could be going on. So be very, very careful. And she just has nobody to help her. She is prime pickings for a scammer.
But you know what is there to help her? Translation apps.
Yes, that's true.
He agrees. Scotch agrees.
Okay, well, Scotch is
Anyway,
the
I'm
man.
I'm so irritated with her. I'm irritated with his face. I'm so glad that she was having a good time on the beach, though I don't know if it was the editing, but you could based on what we saw, it looked like even the musicians were like, this one
Yep,
was a bit much.
yep.
And then her saying, she falls flat on her face and then she gets back up and she keeps going. And I keep thinking about, breaking your hip at that age and the healing that would take. I think she's being completely and utterly reckless with her life, with her money, with her body.
Yeah.
I find watching her very sad now. I was very entertained and, it being I thought she was really funny, and now it's just yeah.
Had she been a woman who had more self-confidence and who went to the Gambia and saw the situation and just was like, "Right, I'm gonna suss this out because I have questions and I'm not going to give you any money or any gifts or anything until I get to the bottom of this," it would have been a completely different show to watch. But
Mhm.
given that we're seeing Xena slowly crumble, basically, she doesn't have any emotional stability. She doesn't have any stability in her family or amongst her friends or in any aspect of her life so that she can hold herself strong and be firm when it comes to confronting Ibrahim. It seems like she has no spine at all. And she's just going to believe whatever garbage he spews out.
And that reminds me of when she was packing and her granddaughter was saying, "Oh, he doesn't have social media. What's his name? Let me look him up." And just that look of almost, like, incredulousness, I
Yeah.
didn't catch that the first time around.
Mm.
I thought she was just, "I'm questioning who this man you're going to see again is," but now knowing the history and seeing how things have unfolded since she's been there, and again, as you said, with her being spineless, I see it more not as her being protective because she was protective from the start, though it's more, "Grandma, you've done this before
Yeah.
and you haven't learned from your mistakes." And this coming from what, like a 20-something-year-old woman?
Well,
And her
you mentioned before that alcohol may be a problem for her more
Mhm.
so than we've seen, and I suspect that you're right. I suspect that she does have an issue surrounding it. I don't know if she's an alcoholic or not, but there may be that component which we haven't really talked about, but it could be affecting her ability to make decisions and to have any kind of
objectivity?
objectivity or backbone. Yeah.
I can say with certainty that I have never fallen on a beach while dancing. I have only fallen while playing,
Okay.
and, on those vacations at the resort, you can get quite toasted, but I don't think I've ever been as drunk as she was.
She was
Yeah.
very sloppy, and, when Ibrahim comes back and he's saying, "Your breasts are falling out of your dress," they absolutely were in the shot before. The dress was getting very, very dangerously low, and you could see that she had probably been pulling it up and forgetting to. It was embarrassing to
I
see that scene.
I was probably too busy writing my notes to see
Okay.
that.
Alright.
Anyway,
Yes,
shall
shall
we
we
move on?
let us read
Took the
on?
words right out of your mouth.
Because this segment had me laughing hysterically. Shorna and Adnan. She's home and she is completely delusional. Completely.
She is completely and utterly out to lunch. And we talked about this before she even left. She was like, "I
Mhm.
feel like we're in a great place. This is fantastic."
Nope. She doesn't see
Oh,
what's right in front of her, just like Zena. She cannot see, even though Adnan
mhm.
is not actively scamming her, although he may be trying to get to England for the visa. He's definitely not trying to get money out of her to build a shack.
No, I don't think that he's trying to scam her at all. I think he was just excited about her being an older woman and her being so beautiful and the sex being so good. And now he's just like, "What's the point?"
Yeah. And she doesn't hear that, see that, catch on to it,
No, they're in a great
suspect it.
spot.
I know.
She's
The
so
way
confident.
she describes this vacation to her daughter, it's like it was an ideal holiday. It was perfect. There were no fights. There were no silences. They didn't spend time apart from one another because they were having such a rough go of things.
He didn't walk off on the beach and take off his mic and say, "I am done."
And she didn't walk away from their lunch and do exactly the same thing.
Mhm. And I love that when she starts telling her kid, the kid cuts her off and she's like, "I don't wanna hear about the boring stuff. How did it actually go?" Like, good for her. Her kid is just as confused as we are about
Yes.
this whole thing. And obviously her kid is much smarter than she is because she sees through the whole thing.
Mhm.
And I thought it was wonderful that her kid was comfortable enough with herself and with her relationship with her mother to call her out and say that this isn't right. Like,
Yeah.
what are you thinking? What are you doing? What is even happening? And I feel like all of the viewers are probably saying the same thing. Cat, put your butt down.
She's one of those people, much like Zena, who just wants to believe the fairy tale so badly. And I think that's why she got sucked into this religious thing to such a great extent.
Desperation. Man, I haven't sang for so long. Yes.
Definitely desperation, but also like just this desire to live in a utopia, this fabulous secret made up world that is total fantasy that has nothing to do with reality because you want it so badly. And so this is her way to get it, to tell herself a story, to tell everybody a story about what really happened on vacation, when in fact we know it was not like that. And the fact that she and Adnan haven't spoken in 3 weeks, I mean, that would set off huge alarm bells if it was me. And when I heard that initially, I thought, okay, well, does that mean you've been texting him and like calling him and he's not responding? That's awful.
Mhm.
But no, she hasn't been contacting him at all either. What the?
You're so confident in your relationship. You can't send him did he even go with her to the airport? Did he drop her off? Did she message him when she landed? Hey, I've landed safely. Did she message him when she got home? I got home okay. Did she say how much fun she had while she was with him? How much she loves him? Absolutely nothing for 20 days. And
Which
then she's sorry, go on.
which means she knew. She knows. She knows how awful it was. And it took her 3 weeks to rewire her brain to the new story, the new narrative that she's telling herself to
Mhm.
believe it.
To
And now she
create her
thinks,
new habit.
yeah, and then to call him like, okay, well, everything's fine and we're going to get married, right? What?
Yeah.
Like,
And he even said he was waiting for her and he wouldn't have contacted her had she not contacted him. And then him say or her say, "Oh, are we gonna get married? Blah blah blah." And he said, "I'm not gonna give you an answer right now." They're equally as immature. Why can't you just say, I don't appreciate the fact that you lied to me about your new religion. I don't appreciate the fact that you failed to tell me about the new rules
yeah.
in their relationship. I don't appreciate the fact that you didn't listen to me when I tried to tell you about my concerns. I don't appreciate the fact that you berated me on or you bullied me on the beach, calling him a loser or whatever it was. And after the conversation, which floored me almost even more, was when she said that it was the worst conversation that she's ever had. How old is she?
45.
No, I know it was almost a rhetorical question at
I
this
know.
point. And,
But
like, she keeps saying the mixed signals. What friggin' mixed signals? He has told you how he feels, and you just you skirt all over it. He didn't call you, message you, anything, and nor did you for 20 days.
yes.
And yet you're expecting a proposal? Out
Yes.
to lunch. Like, I found this more infuriating than entertaining.
Okay.
What the
Well,
f what the f
I
what
was
is
just
wrong with her?
I was delighting in the fact that she was so crazy because this is craziness. It really
Yeah,
is.
yeah, and
When
then
you
she
said
right.
that they are both equally immature, I was like, okay, but she's 45. She is very immature. He's 25. He's just getting to that point where his brain is
His
solidifying,
prefrontal
yeah,
cortex
is
is
getting
getting there.
is getting there. So he's understanding a little bit more about life. But yeah, he's definitely not that mature, but he's at least on par with her for maturity. And she's 20 years older, has 20 years more of experience.
Yeah,
So that says something in of itself, which is quite shocking.
and a kid under her belt. How is she I'm just gonna say it. How is she so stupid, and yet her kid can see right through all of it?
An excellent question. Excellent question.
I was
Her kid is way more mature than she is.
and
But I love the way that she's deluding herself completely and she's actually doing zero work on the relationship. She's not doing anything to forward the relationship, as in getting in touch with your partner saying, I miss you, I love you, thanks for whatever, I'm home, all of those things that you mentioned. She's not doing any groundwork whatsoever. She's just expecting that based on this absolutely abysmal holiday that she had with him, where she sprung on him these surprises about her religion and the no sex, that suddenly everything is great and roses and they can be on track for getting married with no effort on anyone's part to actually forward this objective. Nothing, no work.
I can't imagine being in a relationship with someone who I am very ready to be engaged with, to spend the rest of my life with, and not have any communication with them for 20 days. You know, when
I
you're so in love and every every minute that's not spent with them is just it's almost painful. And then you get to the comfort level. And then if you don't talk to him for a day, weird. However, maybe your schedules didn't match up. 2 days, there's a problem. I mean, depending on your relationship, but 20 friggin' days, that's almost 3 weeks. That's what?
Yeah. To me, I would have been, okay, we're broken up. It's dead. The relationship is over.
Yeah, at what point do you just let it go? But then she's like, "Oh, no, I need to give him more time." What
Well,
and yet she pressured him so much when she was there. "You need to make a decision within the next 24 hours," or whatever it was. "You need to make a decision before I leave." And
yeah,
then if that decision was that they were actually going to get married, how can you leave that for 20 days? Why isn't it just like, "Okay, where are we gonna get married? How do you envision this? How do you want
there
to move forward? Where are we gonna live?"
that conversation did not take place. It's
No.
obvious when he says, "I need time to think about this. I'm not gonna give you any answer on what we should do next." There was no discussion about getting married. If there had been a discussion about getting married, they would have been in touch over the last 3 weeks. There would not have been a gap.
Well, I think he answered in a very questionable way in one of the past episodes just before she left, because she left that I think it was after the flowers or whatever,
Mhm.
and she was like, "Okay, great, we're back on track." And then she says that she's looking forward to having that family life with him, with a 25-year-old. You're 45, ma'am. You wanna have a family life? Is your child not older than him? And what family life are you anticipating on having if you haven't even had that conversation about him converting, and we talked about this recently? How is this relationship supposed to move forward? And her saying, she wants to give him time because she wants to know that she tried is just like grade A baloney. What are you
Yeah,
expecting to get out of this at this point? You want him to bend over backwards to beg for your love and to be with you. Like, what is wrong with this woman? She lied to him for like
a
a
year.
year about not just her religion, the impacts of the religion on not just their relationship, but their physical relationship. And again, we
I know.
talked about how it's like written in the, I don't know if it's written in the actual Mormon, is it a Bible? Is that what it's called?
Yes,
Yeah, so I don't know if it's actually written in the Bible that, you date outside of the Mormon religion and you try to convert them, but we all know
I
that
know.
that's what happens. That's the unwritten rule. She hasn't even talked about that yet.
Oh, we don't need to talk about that. That's
My
down the road.
gosh,
I know.
this is so irritating.
Yes, the level of self-delusion is unprecedented, and I am here for it. I love it. I absolutely love watching people tell
Fail?
themselves a story, believe it, and it is so far removed from reality that they are completely unhinged and disconnected from anything that resembles the truth. It's fascinating.
I'm just so irritated with it.
Okay. Well, let's read on
Well,
because
that's
now
not, because now I'm gonna get even more irritated.
okay, we haven't seen Sam and Ali since last season. She's 30, he's 25, and he's in Turkey. Now, they are 2 years into the relationship, and it turns out that they have actually been married for the past year.
Okay, my very first comment is, "Oh Lord, they got married." I am not looking forward to seeing this couple. I don't know how, or I don't remember how much we talked about them on the last podcast, but since then, your commentary rings true in my mind. And I won't say it out loud, you know what that is. But Sam is not an enjoyable human being. Ellie is a self centered opportunist. If you wanna say it, you can. But anyway, I wanted to ask, isn't he the one who she called? I don't know if this is the couple, but correct me if I'm wrong. She called him and he was absolutely smashed. And he was speaking like gibberish and whatever. And she's like, "What is wrong with you? Did you go out with your friends? Did you go drinking?"
That was
And he was
Sam
like,
and
"Oh,
Ali.
that was them?" And then he hangs up on her.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
but I
that
mean,
was
she
them.
got completely blotto when she was in Turkey with him too, and well, anyway, this is not an enjoyable couple. I'm not exactly sure why they came back to the show except maybe to make money, but I'm not even sure if that's a thing in the UK. I don't think they get paid.
Either way, this is not like the viewer's choice of couples.
No.
She's awful as a human being. Again,
Yes.
he's an opportunist.
Yes. Well, let's talk
And
about the prime example of that opportunism, which we see so clearly in this episode, because they're talking about how Sam is going to Turkey, and that on this trip, which is 2 weeks long, they're going to figure out if they're going to have her stay in Turkey so that they can live there, or if, in fact, they're going to go to the UK as originally planned. Now, we know from the start, 100 million%. Ali is in it for the visa. He's been talking about England since the start. He's in love with England, not with Sam. So he has this, what he calls an evil plan to persuade Sam that his hometown, where she's coming, isn't where she wants to live. He's going to make everything as miserable as he possibly can, show her the worst side of things and the least convenient things about living in Turkey so that she will decide that they have to live in England.
he said that he has been not showing her the great sides of Turkey because he just wants to move there. And then he has
Mhm.
that stupid quote unquote evil laugh. You were talking about punching your computer, and that was one of my moments. And then they start talking about, or she starts talking about the conversion, and yet they're already married. So if she
Uh,
moves to Turkey, which she won't, I feel like that's 100% she's converting. That's the only way that he would allow her to stay there. Either way, I think he's just placating her until he can get there. I don't see any love between the two of them, but it just and when she has that conversation with her friend and her friend is calling her out on the whole visa thing and she just doesn't see it. This couple isn't even remotely in love. Why did you get married without talking about where you're going to live? And we saw it with Mete and the Shannon. They got engaged and then they decided where they were going to get married. And we're
mhm,
talking about like recent couples.
mhm.
So, why has this not been decided previously? What was the purpose of getting married? Why are they on 90 Day Fiancé if they've already gotten married
Yes, good question.
and are now discussing where they're going to live? This just seems so ass backwards. What is your problem? He had no issues with getting married. She probably just like pushed, and he's like, "Okay, great, yeah, let's get married because I'm going to get what I want." And now it's just him coming up with this evil plan with a stupid evil laugh. Oh my god, I don't like this kid's face. I don't like her. I think she's so rude, and I don't think either one of them have any redeeming qualities. Actually, I think there was one scene in their last season where he did something nice. I think it had something to do with like a walk along the water or something, and she complained about the whole thing.
Yes, she likes to complain about everything that he does that's nice for her, but he also doesn't do very many nice things for her. And he is manipulative and she is cruel. It's not a happy match to
Yes.
watch. Like, I like to watch couples who, yes, have problems from time to time, but who are generally speaking good people.
Or at least there's some sort of love involved.
Yeah,
Whether
yeah, that would
it's,
be nice.
you love the person, you love the idea of the person, something of that sort, and I see nothing with this couple, and I am going to be so resentful that we have to keep seeing them. I remember when the preview came out and we saw that they were gonna be on it, and I messaged you and I was like, "I can't say what I said." I'm like, "I'm not looking forward to this."
Well, look, the good news is it's episode 7 already. I think there are only 12 episodes in the season of UK.
Oh, really?
So we're not going to be seeing them for too long.
Well, there's a reason why we're seeing them partway through.
Is it because somebody's going to drop out?
I feel like we've seen it in past seasons where people have dropped off early because they broke it up or whatever, and
Oh,
they start people later either because of the previous dropouts or because they couldn't like production just couldn't make enough of their season to include them the entire time.
right.
And I really hope that that's gonna be the thing, but we're gonna see them a couple more times at least, and I'm not
Mhm.
looking forward to it. So I apologize to the viewers, giving you a heads up. Don't like this couple. I don't even wanna talk about them.
Except not anymore right now because there was nothing really of any note except the evil plan to talk about. And we've done that. So let's move on to Sarah and Marco.
Thank you. Yes, even now.
Sarah is going to Rome And before she goes, we get a bit of backstory. At last, a little bit of light is shed on where she comes from, what her history has been.
I was quite pleased with hearing this because it gave us more information. I think we talked about this last episode.
Mhm.
We don't know enough about her to be able to really make any assessments on her judgment and her behavior, her assessments. And I think that she provided us a little bit.
Yeah.
It's almost like the Stevie bits, you get little bits of Stevie and
Yes.
we get a
Yes.
little bit more of her. And I felt a little bit more for her in this, a bit more compassion.
Yeah, we can definitely see where some of her hurt comes from, where some
Mhm.
of her wounds are in that she was engaged before they got pregnant, she had a miscarriage, he cheated on her or somebody else has cheated on her. It wasn't totally clear if it was that guy or some other history that where she had a relationship where she was cheated on, but she suffered so much in that relationship that she definitely, I think, has some issues with trust and also, like, as far as the cheating goes, but also trusting herself. Because when you have that kind of a loss, I think, because I've never suffered this before, but I would imagine that it makes you hesitant to love somebody as much as you did before in case that happens again. It's kind of like a security measure, a
Mhm.
self defense mechanism. And I kind of see that in her where she obviously has feelings for Marco and she loves him very much, but she's keeping it a secret from her family. We know that. And she says it's because Marco hasn't asked her dad for permission to marry her yet. But I
Yeah.
also feel like because this miscarriage was held as a secret from her family for a very long time. So there's a pattern there of keeping things to herself and trying to deal with them on her own rather than going to her family and saying, "Look, this is what's going on in my life. I need support."
I f I really felt bad for her because for a traumatic situation such as a miscarriage, and I know that miscarriages are very common, but that doesn't mean that you can't talk about it. You should talk about it. They're devastating, especially when you're super excited to have this child, no matter how far along you are. You shouldn't feel embarrassed about it. And again, this is something that I've never suffered. However, I have had friends that have suffered from things and I have suffered from miscarriages specifically. It's devastating. And I feel awful that she didn't feel like she could talk to her family or that she had to keep it a secret and that she also had to deal with, the cheating, whether or not it was with that person or the other person. That's awful. I feel awful for her. And I really wish that she could find the comfort in her own voice and in knowing that none of this was her own fault.
I really got the impression from watching her in this episode and hearing her talk about her past history that she's also afraid of disappointing the people that she loves.
Mhm.
And that could be tied into why she didn't tell her family about what happened for both tragedies, being cheated on and miscarrying.
What an excellent point.
And maybe she's afraid of disappointing her dad by announcing her engagement or having Marco announce it to him so quick because it has been a quick romance.
But we don't know the timeline.
We don't know exactly, but I think it was 3 months that they spent together from when they first met on the beach to when they became engaged, or that was 3 months ago? I'm getting
No, I
confused
thought
now.
that they got engaged about 3 months ago.
Okay, so I think I am remembering that right then. But either way, she's trying to, like, protect herself or protect her dad from this knowledge because she's not sure how it will be taken, maybe?
I wonder how much blame she's received for things that are out of her control.
That too. Yes. Yes.
Very familiar with that,
Mhm.
and that's a really shitty way to live your life.
Yeah, but it's familiar territory for a lot of women where the burden of successful relationships or successful motherhood is on our shoulders squarely. And if we disappoint, then it's really hard to communicate that to anybody else because of the guilt.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and
But
I
anyway, she does go to Rome. He makes her this amazing breakfast. I love that. I thought you'd appreciate the fresh pastries.
can we go back for a second
Yes.
with her conversation with her father?
Oh, yeah.
She asked her dad what the secret was for a good marriage.
Oh.
And he says, "No secrets,
Mhm.
always telling the truth." And then we
Right.
find out about all of these secrets that she's kept from her family. And it's almost like she's embarrassed for being a human being, for not having control over her fertility and just, I don't know how else to say that. And, for someone cheating on her, her fiance leaving her. And I just, yeah, her history of secrecy was just so sad. So for him, for his position to be no secrets, and yet that's how she's been living her life. Did
Mhm.
she take anything from that? I don't know.
No, because she didn't immediately say, "Well, Dad, actually, I've been keeping this a secret from you. I was really hoping that Marco would call you and ask for permission, but we are engaged." Like, that was the moment. She said nothing.
Yeah.
And the camera panned to her hands, which were kinda clenched together under the table in her lap.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Is she hiding the ring or something? Is that what's going on?" She must have taken it off before going. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, back to breakfast.
Yeah,
It
so
looked
the breakfast.
absolutely delicious. And then when she was saying she didn't want an espresso, I immediately started typing, "Oh my god, she's pregnant." And then she's like, "No, it's too strong and I'm not gonna give up milk." And I'm like, "I'm wrong. I'm wrong." But it looked like little pistachio cakes and I forget what else was there. I just saw the pistachio. But you know what I loved the most aside from the little pistachio cakes was the fact that she was drinking coffee out of a mug that had her cat on it.
Yes.
She had a mug with her cat on it in Italy at her
That was
fiance's place.
so sweet that he's got, or they've got, the 2 mugs, his little espresso cup and her big cat mug, that he does this gesture of getting her favorite pastries for breakfast on her first morning. There are
Mhm.
really sweet elements to Marco that I'm really enjoying seeing, but I'm still I'm still so hesitant. I still see red flags in him,
I don't trust him.
especially when it comes to how quickly he wants to get married to her.
Yeah, and also
What?
his dismissal of her traditions, because he
That,
keeps saying,
yes.
"Yeah, it's your tradition for me to ask your father for your hand in marriage, and yet it's my tradition to not put friggin' mushrooms in a carbonara." Fair, dude, fair. I would also eat carbonara with or without mushrooms.
I
Let's
think
be
it's
serious.
carbonara. Carbonara, my dear.
Carbonara, what did I say?
Carbonara.
Oh,
Scusi,
yeah, but
prego.
he said it was absolute blasphemy.
Yeah.
And I understand how some people are with their traditional dishes. That's fine.
Yep.
Don't get me started on cabbage rolls and the stuff people put in them. But he says that he's not ready to ask her dad for her
Mhm.
hand in marriage.
Okay, this doesn't make any sense.
Thank you.
He's ready to marry her the next week if he could, and it does indeed sound like that is the plan, which floored me. And yet he will not ask her dad now. Why?
Yes. And I feel like he keeps pushing her. He's like, I will get married to you next week, blah, 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 because he doesn't want to compromise.
Yeah.
And what
And
I,
all she's saying is, "Please ask my dad. I will marry you as quickly as you like, but you need to get this impediment out of the way." But he will not act.
and it's just a tradition. I don't know what his hesitancy is in asking. What has he done to make him think that her father wouldn't say yes? I mean, it's not like Andy and what's her name? What's her name?
Ara?
Yes, in the
On
Philippines.
yes.
Oh my god, it's too soon. I don't
Yes.
think it's that.
No.
I feel like there's a massive timeline difference. I mean, not massive, but a decent timeline difference between the two of them. So I don't think it's that. And then what I think was even more telling is, the big production of pulling Fabio in. They're his best friend and the one that he thought she was cheating on him with. And he had issues with Fabio because he was getting too close with her. This being a big issue about telling him, just the production of it was interesting. Why wouldn't he be the first person that they told? Why did they not tell him? Because she's become so close with him. And, Marco was so concerned about or jealous of her relationship with him. Why wouldn't he just like stomp on that ground and be like, by the way, we're engaged? If you thought that, anything was going on between you and my fiance, that's done. Like, why did they wait to tell him? I think that this is a stupid storyline. And also, the first question that Fabio asked, whether or not this was production involved, I don't know, but he asked if Marco had asked for her father's hand in marriage. So even
Permission,
though
not the father's hand.
shoot, sorry, thank you. Sorry, it's been a long week. Yeah, for the permission, and even though it's not a tradition in Italy, Fabio is aware of it enough to ask.
Yeah,
And then I wonder, like, when you watch them when they're sitting at that little table, their body language. Fabio was so like, he looked very uncomfortable, he looked very anxious. It was interesting, but I felt like his body language and her body language was so much more connected than Sarah's with
Marco.
Marco's.
Mhm.
And I don't know what Marco's issue is with Fabio. It seems as though he's trying to knock Fabio out of it so he can have Sarah, whereas I think Sarah and Fabio might actually be a better match. He seems so much more respectful, so much more trusting. He's funnier. I don't think Marco has ever made me laugh because that matters. But it was just such an interesting excuse me, interesting dynamic to see the three of them together. And this is supposed to be your best friend. And it wasn't like he was like peeing on her leg, like she is mine, because if that was his intent, he would have done it earlier. So like why haven't they told the closest people in their lives? What are they hiding? They're hiding something. I don't know which one it is, and I don't know what it is, but there has to be a reason why they've kept this so secretive for so long. We're talking 3, 4 months. That's a
Yeah.
long time to not tell anyone that you're getting married to the love of your life. I can't imagine not calling my best friend the day of.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on and why the secrecy. I just know that smell a rat when it comes to how quickly Marco wants to get married to her. That is very suspicious to me. Why do you need to do this in such a hurry? And when we initially see them in the morning talking to each other about, oh, we've got to do the wedding planning, and he's formulating it as if it's going to happen within a week. And she's kind of backing off from that, saying, well, no, we need to do this first. And I would take more time. And I would like to have you ask for my dad's permission. And it seems like a much longer timeline in her mind. But then when they're sitting down with Fabio, they're talking about the wedding as if it is happening next week. And Sarah's going along with this. And I just went, huh? What? There's a huge chunk of conversation that has been left out, maybe deliberately, maybe not. But
Who knows?
how does she go so fast from, I'd really like to take a little while, a few months to plan all of this to, okay, we'll have it your, like, she is just appeasing him so quickly. I think that has a lot to do with why Marco is acting the way he is, like not asking the dad, pushing for the early wedding, and being territorial with Fabio. He likes control. And she is slipping back into that role that she's had so many times in other relationships.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it out there. Maybe she didn't want the espresso and she wanted to water down her coffee because she actually is pregnant and he doesn't feel the need to ask her dad for permission because she's already pregnant. What is he gonna do? Say no? And she doesn't want to say anything because she's already had a miscarriage. So she wants to make sure that this child is viable. I don't know. I could just be completely talking out of my ass. I'm not entirely
Yeah.
sure. I could be completely wrong. However, I can't conceive
Mm.
word while we're talking about this. I can't think of another situation that would make this situation make sense. Make it make sense.
Yeah. We need more. We definitely
Why the
need.
rush?
Yeah.
Why the secrecy? Why the issue with the coffee and the milk?
Yeah. We we need to see more.
I'm concerned for her.
Me too.
And I'm also concerned for the cat. Is she gonna bring the cat? Is she gonna move to Italy? Is he gonna move to the UK?
I'm
What's
not
going
worried
on?
about the cat because I think definitely dad is going to look after the cat if she can't bring the cat to Italy.
Okay, fair.
But
He
she is
seems like a cat.
definitely 100% moving to Italy. He is not going to be moving to England. No, 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 no. With a guy who talks like that about food and Italian traditions, there's no freaking way that he's going to leave that behind.
Fair.
Yes? Okay.
Totally, totally fair.
Good. Well, let's close things off. We've been talking for a very long time this evening.
God, I'm sorry I went off on
Quite
so many
late.
rants.
Before we go, if you're enjoying the 90 Day Fiancé Honestly podcast, please subscribe to or give our show a follow. If you have an additional moment, please rate us and help other 90 Day fans to find our show. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next week.